the general power formula, the product rule, the quotient, and the basic trigonometric formulas. So I would like you to take note of the first few rules. Like for the differentiation rules, for constant, let's just say, of course, this is the x and the y axis, and let's just say there is a line y equals c. It is a horizontal line, and then isn't it before that I said derivatives basically are slopes. So if you're given y equals 4, and then 4 would be a horizontal line. The slope of that horizontal line is 0. Therefore, I can say that the derivative of a constant is 0. Next, identity. If, for example, you have y equals x, the slope of y equals x is 1. Therefore, in this case, the dy, or if f of x is equal to x, the dy over dx, take note that y is x. So dx over dx is actually equal to 1. This only goes true for x raised to n, where n is a positive integer, which is equal to 1. Next, a constant multiplier. For example, this one. Any constant multiplier that you don't need, what you could do is you can bring it out and then apply the differentiation formula. So in this case, I don't need the 2. I bring out the 2, and then I'm left with x. So I'm left with the derivative of x with respect to x. It's simply equal to 2. Next, the simple power formula. This one, you have to take note of the formulas here. The formula is n x to the n minus 1 dx over dx. So this one is basically equal to 1 because that's identity. You're left with n x to the n minus 1. So x cubed would be 3, x to the third minus 1, or x squared na lang. 3x squared. So, if for example, I gave you y equals 20 x to the 4. First, you know that the constant here, 20 is a constant. Therefore, I can remove the constant. Y prime, I can move out the constant, and then I'll get the derivative of x to the 4. What's the derivative of x to the 4, guys? That is 4 x to the 4 minus 1 dx over dx, which is equal to 1. So in this case, that's 20 times 4x to the third, or 80x cubed, your y prime. Okay. Next, the general power rule. So you might ask, why do we have a general power rule? We already have the simple power rule. Simple power rule is basically if it's a simple term, whereas a general power rule, if instead of just x, you have parang a bigger function of x. So a bigger function of x, u is a function of x, u to the m. You have n, u to the n minus 1, du over dx. So let's just try this. Sorry, for this case, the u is x plus 1. The n is 3. Therefore, applying the power rule, the du over dx is 1. So look at the formula here. N, 3, u to the n minus 1, du over dx, which is 1. And you'll notice whenever I write brackets, they are the derivatives. This one is a formula. And then here is the derivative. Therefore, 3x plus 1 squared. In this case, the u is 3x squared minus 4. So the n is equal to 4. So what we do here is we write the u, we write the n. And then what's the du over dx? The du over dx is simply 6x. I'll write it. Du over dx is 6x minus 0. So you don't need to write 0 anymore. So n u to the n minus 1, and then the derivative, which is 6x. So that is the final answer for the general power. Now, there are several more rules. Sum and difference. It only means that if you have, guys, two separate functions, let's just say f of x and g of x, just like the one below, you can treat them individually. So can you dictate to me the derivative of the first term? 6x. What about the second term? 4. Therefore, the answer is 6x plus 4. So now we have a product. For the product rule, you have two functions again, u and v. So pretend you have uv over dx. What we do here is u dv over dx, or simply I can just say the derivative of uv with respect to x is u v prime plus v u prime, meaning copy the first, derivative of the second, plus copy the second, derivative of the first. So that means in here you have two terms. I can say the first term is x plus 1. The second term is 3x. So you have u and v. What's the, according to the formula, copy the first. By the way, guys, when you're getting the derivative already, I would appreciate it if you are writing here the y prime already. So copy the first, derivative of the second. What's the derivative of the second? It's 3. Copy the second, derivative of the first is 1 plus 0, or simply 1. So distributing, that's 3x plus 3 plus 3x is simply 6x plus 3. All right. Next is the quotient. With this, for the quotient, I usually write it like this. This one, remember that for fraction, the numerator is the high and then low. So what I do here is the derivative of u over v with respect to x is low, derivative of high minus high, derivative of low over low squared. So low d high d low over low squared. That's this one. Low, copy the low, derivative of the high, minus copy the high, derivative of the low over low squared. So what do we have here? What's the high? It's 3x. What's the low? It's 2x minus 1. Therefore, low, so copy the low. What's the derivative of high? That's 3. Minus copy the high. What's the derivative of the low? It's 2 over low squared. So this one. Okay, next. Here are some examples. Let's try. This is 2x minus 8x to the third minus 15x to the 4. That's it, right? Next, w prime. The first one is a constant, so I can say 0 plus 2/5 of v. So 2/5. What's the derivative of v with respect to v, guys? 1 minus here 1/3. Bring it out. What's the derivative of v squared? 2v. Okay. So the answer is 2/5 minus 2v over 3. That's correct. Next. Here. Oh, sometimes it's also applicable pala, even if it's not a whole number. The powers, yes, they're applicable, even if it's not an integer. So here, what we do here is, okay, since you're given an f of x, let's write it as f prime of x. Power rule is n, u to the n minus 1, and then the derivative of x is simply 1. minus, I don't need the 4, so bring it out, times, oh, there's negative 1/2. So applying the power rule, negative 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 minus 1. And then the derivative of x is 1. Okay, let's simplify. 2 squared of x minus and minus, so that becomes plus. So that becomes 2 over x to the 2/3. 2/3, 3/2, sorry. 3/2, right? So some might ask, sir, do we need to fix this to be like this? Do you also need to simplify further as square root of x over 2x? This one is plus 2 square root of x over x squared. So let's go to the next. Okay, so this one, it's quite difficult even to look at. So what I would do, guys, is, personally, what I would do is this. 6 cube root of 9x plus 12. So that means, instead of like a product rule, I'll apply product rule. Maybe I can simplify it further. Now, the first one, maybe I can rewrite it even further. You understand? Okay, now let's apply the derivatives. Do I need the 6 or it's just a constant, guys? It's just a constant, so bring it out. Now, ito may x na, so I need to get the derivative. What's the power rule, guys? The n times u to the n minus 1, and then the derivative of the inside. What's the derivative of the one I underlined? 9, very good. Plus, what's the derivative of 12? 0. So, okay, 6 divided by 3 is 2 times 9. Oh, okay. That's 18. Sorry. I said 18. I was looking at 9. 18 times 9x. What's 1/3 minus 1? 1/3 minus 1, guys, is negative 2/3. So, I would be okay if you write it like this. Okay. Next. Oh, okay. So this one. What is the first thing that you see, guys, when you're solving for the derivative in here? Because when you're looking at derivatives, it's always from outside going inside. So from outside going inside, what's the first thing that you see? But the first thing that you see is raised to the 4 or the power. So the power of the inside. Okay, so power rule pala yung first. 4 times 2x to the 4 minus 5 raised to the 3. And then this one. So always from outside going in. We're done with the power. What do you see now? 2x to the 4 minus 5. What's the derivative of 2x to the 4? 8x to the third. Very good. What's the derivative of negative 5? 0. Okay, so we're done because this one is a simple function already. So here, 32x cubed, 2x to the 4 minus 5 to the third power. This is y prime. Okay, so let's try some more. Can you please dictate to me what's the derivative of the first one? Okay, number 2, guys. Go f prime of x. That's very good. 3x squared minus 6x plus 5. F prime of t. This one is, so that's 1/4 times, so 4t cubed minus 1/2 2t squared, or simply t cubed minus t squared. Right? Ay, ba't 2 square pa? T cubed minus t. You understand? Okay, so this one, what if it's easier if we do this? 5x to the negative 4. It might be easier if we treat it like this. So let's try. G prime of x is, we don't need the 3, bring it out. So using the power formula, negative 2, x to the negative 3, and then the derivative of x is 1. We can choose not to write that anymore. 5, and then the power formula is negative 4, x to the negative 5. Therefore, this one is negative 6 over x to the third minus 20 over x to the 5. Some of you would say, what if, sir, we use the quotient rule? Okay, so let's try the quotient rule. Low d high minus high d low, so x squared squared. That becomes x to the 4, right? Plus low d high minus high. High d low is 4 x to the third over low squared. So low squared is 8. So that means this one, okay, negative 6x over x to the 4 minus 20x to the third over x to the 8. So negative 6 over x cubed minus 20 over x to the 5th. Now, let's go to the last topic for today, the derivatives of the trigonometric functions. So the derivative of sine of u, take note that u is a function of x. The derivative of sine is a cosine, u du over dx. The derivative of cosine is negative sine u du over dx. Tangent is secant squared u du over dx. Cotangent u is negative cosecant squared u. Secant is secant u tangent u. For cosecant, it's negative cosecant cotangent. What I would like you to focus on is that if you are getting the derivative of those functions starting with letter C, you will notice that the final answers are negative. So let's start. Okay, the first, do you need the 3? Do I need the 3 here? Can I move it out? Yes, this constant multiplier. Now, what's the derivative of sine of 4x? The derivative of sine is cosine of 4x. What's the derivative of 4x, guys? Times 4. Therefore, the final answer is 12 cosine of 4x. Again, what type of functions are these? These are trigonometric functions, and they fall under what you call transcendental functions. Okay? The 4x in here is the angle, or what you call the argument of the function. So that means, look at number 2, guys. The first thing that you should see here is, if I rewrite this, this would be like that, right? So what's the first thing that I should take note of? The
Power, sir?
power of that trigonometric function. Very good. So this becomes 3 sine x squared, and then the derivative of that. What's the derivative of the underlined term? Cosine of x. Therefore, tapos na. Kasi yung x lang siya. Sana kung 3x to, may 3 pa sa dulo. Alright, therefore the answer is 3 sine squared x cosine of x. So in here, cotangent of the square root of 3x. So cotangent, guys, look at your screenshot. What's the derivative of a cotangent? It's negative cosecant squared. Tama? So negative cosecant squared of what? Of the angle. Tapos, now look at this. What's the derivative of the 3x raised to 1/2? Do I need to apply power rule? Yes. Tama? That is 1/2 3x raised to negative 1/2, and then the derivative of the inside. What's the derivative of the inside, guys? 3, be careful sa ganito. So, it's negative 3/2 cosecant square root of 3x. Underneath, there is the square root of 3x. So, in here, if I simplified, it becomes negative square root of 3x cosecant square root of 3x over 6x. Am I correct? Ay, hindi. 2x na lang pala kasi makakancel nila sa taas. This one, let's rewrite this. Okay. The first thing that we should look at is the power outside. So y prime is 2 tangent of x squared to the 1. Now, what's the derivative of the tangent, guys? Secant squared of the x squared. What's the derivative of x squared? 2x. So the final answer is 4x tangent of x squared secant squared of x squared. Eto, what do you see first? The first thing that you see is what? Dapat. Diba dapat the power? So 2 sine of 4x plus 1, and then the derivative of sine. What's the derivative of sine, guys? That's cosine of 4x plus 1. Now look at this, nagmo-move. Ang tawag dito parang chain rule. Alam mo yung palit ng palit. What's the derivative of 4x plus 1? It becomes 4. So the answer is 8. Sine of 4x plus 1, cosine of 4x plus 1. Okay, here I have another example, but this is already solved. So in this case, the first thing that you should see is the fraction. In the fraction, on top, you have a power of the trig. At the bottom, you have a power. So low, d high, sa d high, 3 sine of 5x squared, and then the derivative of sine, it's cosine of 5x. What's the derivative of 5x? It's 5. Minus high. The derivative of low is 1/2 x cubed plus 1 to the negative 1/2, and then the derivative of this one is 3x squared plus 0 all over low squared. Okay. And then here, you can try to simplify. Okay. So let's try some examples. What do you see first, guys? The sine. So what is the angle of sine? What's the argument of sine, guys? The angle of sine is the cosine tangent for x. The angle of the cosine is the tangent for x. The angle for tangent is the 4x. You understand? So the derivative of this would be cosine tangent for x. Okay. What's the derivative of the the inside. That's negative sine tangent of 4x. What's the derivative of tangent? Secant squared 4x. What's the derivative of 4x? 4. So this one is negative 4 secant squared 4x sine of tangent 4x cosine tangent 4x. That's it. Okay, let's try another one. For example, I write there okay. Let's try the derivative. So this one is 12 x to the third, right? No problem with that. The 2, I don't need that yet because it's just a multiplier. However, there is a secant squared. So I will apply what rule first, guys? Power rule. The power rule for this is 2 secant tangent 3x. Ito, ang power rule niya to the 1. Okay. Now, what is the derivative of secant, guys? Secant u tangent u. So, secant of tan x over 3x tangent of tan x over 3x. Parang sabihin nyo, ano ba yan? Hindi matapos. It's okay. Okay, now, the thing that you see now is the quotient. For the quotient, low, d high is secant squared minus high, d low is 3 over low squared. You understand how to get it, guys? Sige, next. Okay, guys, what do you see first? What rule do we apply first? The power rule, very good. The power of what? Next is after the power rule, what do we apply? Quotient, very good. After the quotient, what do we apply? Merong trig at saka may basic power ulit. Okay, so let's check that. N u to the n minus 1, and I will do the fraction. For the fraction, low, d high, the d high is what? Cosine 4x times 4 minus high. D low is 3x squared plus 0. I don't need to write the 0 anymore. Over low squared. Next. What do you see first, guys? Product. Very good. So, let's write there. U natin is maybe sine 3x to the 4. V is the square root of x squared minus 1. So, sorry, bakit the y prime to? According to the product rule, copy the first. So, sine 4, 3x. Derivative of the second. So, the derivative of the second, v prime is 1/2 x squared minus 1 to the negative 1/2 times the derivative of the inside, which is 2x. Tama? So this is simply x over square root of x squared minus 1. Ang u prime naman is a power rule first for sine to the third 3x. Now look at the sine. What's the derivative of a sine? Cosine 3x. What's the derivative of 3? Of 3x, it's 3. So here, it's 12 sine 3 of 3x cosine of 3x. So copy the first, derivative of the second. I have that already. Plus, copy the second, derivative of the first. Ayun. 12 sine cube 3x cosine 3x. Okay. So for number 1, guys, may I ask, how do you answer number 1? What's the problem, Len? Ulit. Y is sine 2 theta. And what's the answer? This is basically cosine 2 theta times 2, right? Okay, let's look at number 2. X cotangent of 3x. All right. Sige nga, paano yung number 2? It's a product rule. Copy the first. Anong derivative nito? Ng cotangent? Negative cosecant squared 3x times, times, guys, what? Times 3. Pero, take note, dalawang function na magka-separate. Plus, copy the second, derivative of the first. Kasi this one is a u times v. Negative 3x cosecant squared of 3x plus cotangent of 3x is the correct answer. What's number? Let's try 3. Tan squared 3x squared. Tan squared of 3x squared. What is y prime? Diba the first that you see should be the power rule. So 2 tangent of 3x squared. The derivative of tangent is secant squared of 3x squared. The derivative of this one is 6x. Therefore, this is 12x tangent 3x squared secant squared 3x squared. Okay. Number 4. It's quite tricky. Cosine x plus 1 x sine of x. So, low d high, di ba? Low d high is negative sine x minus high d low. Yun yung problem. In the d low, there is u times v. So, v prime is cosine x plus v u prime tapos all over x squared sine squared x. Can you follow? Sige, let's try last one, number 5. Sine cube 2 theta. Sige, ang hihingin ko sa inyo, y double prime instead of y prime, meaning the second derivative. Sige nga guys, what's the first derivative? This one becomes 3 sine squared 2 theta cosine 2 theta times 2. That's why you got the 6 sine squared 2 theta cosine 2 theta. You're very good. Pero guys, I'm asking now, what is y double prime? So look, there are two terms. I don't need the 6. Bring it out. So in the two terms, copy the u, derivative of the v. Anong derivative ng v, guys? Kasi I just brought out the 6, ha? What's the derivative of the v? Negative sine 2 theta times 2 plus, copy the second, derivative of the first. The first is a sine squared. Therefore, that's 2 sine 2 theta cosine 2 theta times 2. So it's quite long. There's the 6 outside. I'll try combining these ones. Negative 2 sine cube 2 theta. This is plus 4 sine 2 theta cosine squared 2 theta. Oh, and then just, bring 6 in. Ito, last one. For example, if I gave you this one, how would you give me the derivative of this one? There are 3 terms. So ako, I would do, maybe I can say, what if I make this A and then this one B? Copy the A. Derivative of the B is 1/2 x plus 1 to the negative 1/2 plus copy the B, derivative of the A. Now, the derivative of A is copy the first, derivative of the second, plus copy the second, derivative of the first. Can you follow, guys? That when you have 3 terms, or basically more than 2 terms, it's up to you what to group. Why did I group this 2 for A and this is B? Because if I group the sine x and the square root, it's a bit more difficult to look at. At least this one is simply an x. So what do I have here? X sine x over 2 square root of x plus 1 plus x plus 1. This is x cosine x plus sine x.